The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Plain white envelope. My name in handwriting I'd recognize anywhere, even after 12 years of marriage. Marcus, by the time you read this, the money will be gone. All $47 million. Every account, every investment, every property deed. You're wondering how. You had the passwords, the access codes, the offshore accounts in your name. The answer is simple. You should have read the fine print on your father's will. Eleanor, my hands shook as I stared at those words, sitting in the Michelin-starred restaurant where I'd taken Sienna for lunch. 2:37 p.m. The Dover Sole we'd ordered, $280 per plate, suddenly felt obscene. What is it? Sienna leaned across the table, her Cartier bracelet. $85,000, purchased last week, catching the light. Marcus, you look pale. But let me take you back. To understand how it came to this, you need to know where it began. 4 months earlier, my father died on a Monday. Heart attack. Swift, the doctors said. He wouldn't have suffered. I suffered enough for both of us at the funeral. Eleanor stood beside me in a simple black dress. And Taylor, probably, nothing designer. Her hand in mine was steady while I shook. She'd always been steady. 15 years together, 12 married. The quiet daughter of a pharmacist who'd seemed grateful when I'd chosen her. I'm so sorry, she whispered as they lowered the casket. I know you loved him. I had. My father had built Whitmore Capital from nothing. A self-made man who'd given me every advantage, every opportunity. And now he was gone. The will reading was scheduled for the following week. It'll be fine, Eleanor said that night, making chamomile tea in our kitchen. The house was silent, no children. We'd tried for years. Another failure she never complained about. Whatever he left, we'll manage it wisely. I nodded, not really listening. I was already planning. My father's fortune, I knew it was substantial. 8 figures, maybe 9. Money that would finally let me live the life I deserved. The life my father had worked his whole life to build for me. The attorney's office smelled like old books and furniture polish. Eleanor sat beside me, hands folded in her lap. She wore the same dress she'd worn to the funeral. I'd changed into my best Tom Ford suit, $6,000. First impression for my new life as a wealthy man. The estate, my father's attorney began, consists of $47 million in liquid assets, the Whitmore Capital building valued at $23 million, investment properties totaling another $18 million, and various securities and bonds. My heart hammered. Nearly $90 million. $90 million. The will is straightforward. Everything passes to Marcus Whitmore, with one condition. I barely heard him. I was calculating. The things I could buy. The life I could finally lead. No more middle management at a company I didn't own. No more pretending Eleanor's simple tastes were charming rather than embarrassing. The condition, the attorney continued, is that Marcus's wife, Eleanor Whitmore née Harrison, must co-sign any transaction over $100,000 for the first 5 years. After that period, full control transfers to Marcus alone. I froze. What? Your father was explicit. He wanted to ensure the marriage remained stable during the transition period. It's not uncommon with large estates. That's ridiculous. Eleanor, tell him. But Eleanor was quiet, reading the document the attorney had slid across the desk. Her finger traced the lines, pausing at specific paragraphs. This is standard? She asked. For estates of this size where the beneficiary is married? Yes. Your father-in-law wanted to protect the family assets. But I'm the heir. It's my inheritance. And Mrs. Whitmore is your legal spouse. In 5 years, the restriction lifts. Until then, you'll need her signature on major expenditures. The attorney looked at Eleanor. He trusted you to help steward this wisely. Eleanor nodded slowly. I understand. I wanted to scream. 5 years of asking permission? 5 years of Eleanor's cautious, penny-pinching input on every decision? But I smiled. Because that's what you do when you're trapped. Of course. We're partners. Eleanor squeezed my hand. We'll be careful with it. Honor your father's legacy. I met Sienna 6 weeks later. The fundraising gala at the Carlisle Hotel, $1,500 per ticket. Eleanor hadn't wanted to go. It seems excessive, Marcus. Your father just died. Maybe we should keep a low profile. It's networking. For the business. I'd said it sharply. She'd flinched. Sienna was at the champagne bar. 26. Blonde. Wearing Versace like a second skin. She worked in consulting, which seemed to mean looking beautiful at events and connecting wealthy men with opportunities. You look troubled, she said, handing me a glass. Pristol. $800 a bottle. Just thinking about money. She laughed. The only thing worth thinking about. We talked for an hour. She didn't mention budgets or legacies or being careful. She talked about yacht clubs and private islands and what it meant to really live. When she touched my arm, I felt something I hadn't felt with Eleanor in years. Excitement. Possibility. The future I deserved. I should go, I said. My wife is waiting. Wives always wait. Sienna smiled. The question is, what are you waiting for? I went home to Eleanor that night. She was asleep on the couch, waiting up, a financial planning book open on her lap. I looked at her. Mousy brown hair, no makeup, discount store pajamas, and felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't the life I was meant for. And I had $47 million to prove it. The first major purchase was the car. A Bentley Continental GT, $340,000. Cherry red. Custom interior. Eleanor stared at the paperwork I'd put in front of her. We were in the kitchen, our modest kitchen in our modest house that I suddenly hated. Marcus, we discussed this. We agreed to invest the money wisely. Build on your father's legacy. This is an investment. Image matters in business. You want me to sign off on a $340,000 car when we're still driving my 10-year-old Honda? Your Honda is fine for you. I need something that reflects my position. She looked at me. Really looked. Your position? As the heir to Whitmore Capital. Eleanor, don't be difficult. This is important. I watched her debate. Watched the moment she decided not to fight. She sighed. Thank you, I said, already imagining Sienna's face when she saw it. Marcus. Eleanor's voice was soft. Are we okay? Of course. Why wouldn't we be? She didn't answer. The affair started officially 3 weeks later. Sienna didn't hide her excitement about the Bentley or the penthouse I rented downtown, $18,000 per month. Eleanor signed that too, after I claimed it was for business meetings. Isn't our home office sufficient? She'd asked. Clients expect a certain level of sophistication. Another signature. Another lie she accepted. The jewelry came next. A Cartier bracelet for Sienna, $85,000. I told Eleanor it was an investment piece. Jewelry holds value. It's practically liquid assets. She'd looked at the receipt. At the bracelet size, far too small for her wrist. But she sighed. Each time, she sighed. I brought Sienna to business dinners, introduced her as my associate. Bought her a wardrobe that cost more than Eleanor's entire closet. A Mercedes for the business. Vacations to Monaco and Dubai. Networking opportunities. Eleanor signed it all. Her face growing more drawn with each request. Her questions fewer. Her trust, I thought, eroding into acceptance. Good. Let her accept it. Let her realize this was how things would be now. 5 years, I told Sienna one night in the penthouse. We were drinking Chateau Margaux, $3,000 a bottle. 5 years, and I won't need her signature anymore. So divorce her now. Sienna traced the rim of her glass. You have enough. It's complicated. The will's language is tricky. If I divorce before the 5 years, there might be legal challenges. Might be. I hadn't actually checked. Hadn't wanted to show my cards to attorneys who might tell Eleanor. Better safe than sorry. Besides, she's signing everything anyway. She's broken. Sienna smiled. You're terrible. I'm practical. 4 months in, I'd spent $8.2 million. I kept careful track. Enough to enjoy, not enough to alert Eleanor to the scope. The Bentley, the penthouse, Sienna's jewelry and clothes, the trips, the wine, the restaurants, the lifestyle I'd always deserved. Eleanor had grown quieter, thinner. She'd stopped making dinner most nights. Stopped asking about my day. When I came home, which was rare, she was usually reading or working on her laptop. What are you always working on? I asked one night, irritated by her focus on the screen instead of me. Just some projects. Nothing important. Well, I need you to sign something tomorrow. The Whitmore building needs renovations. $2.3 million. She looked up. Renovations? Your father just updated it 3 years ago. It needs modernizing. I'd like to see the proposals. Compare contractors. Eleanor, don't micromanage. I know what I'm doing. It's $2.3 million, Marcus. I'd like to understand. You don't need to understand. You need to trust me. Silence. Then, do you think I'm stupid? The question caught me off guard. What? Do you think I don't know about her? About Sienna? My blood went cold. I don't know what. The bracelet was too small for me. The Mercedes registration came to our house. And you smell like her perfume. Chanel No. 5. I've never worn it. I should have felt caught. Ashamed. Instead, I felt relieved. No more pretending. So what are you going to do about it? She stood, walked to where I sat, looked down at me with an expression I'd never seen before. I'm going to keep signing, Marcus. Every request. Every expense. I won't fight you. Why? Because I made a promise to your father. My father's dead. I know. She touched my shoulder, gentle, like you'd touch something fragile. But some promises outlive the people we make them to. She walked away, leaving me confused and somehow unsettled. But the next day, she signed the renovation papers without a word. That was 3 weeks ago. Now I'm sitting in this restaurant, Sienna across from me, Eleanor's letter in my hand. By the time you read this, the money will be gone. All $47 million. Marcus. Sienna's voice is sharp. What is it? What does it say? I read it again. Then again. The words don't change. I need to make a call. My hands shake as I dial the bank. The private wealth manager who handled the accounts. Mr. Whitmore, I've been trying to reach you. There's been significant activity on your accounts. What activity? Transfers. Multiple large transfers over the past 4 months. All properly authorized with dual signatures. The accounts are essentially depleted. There's approximately $4.2 million remaining in liquid assets, and the properties have all been transferred to who? Transferred to who? According to the documentation, various charitable trusts and foundations. All legitimate. All properly executed. The phone slips from my hand. Sienna is staring. Marcus? What's happening? I can't speak. Can't breathe. Eleanor had kept signing. Every expense. Every request. While I spent millions on Sienna, on cars and jewelry and pleasure, Eleanor had been moving the rest. Every signature I demanded, she'd given. And while I was distracted by my own indulgence, she'd been signing other papers. Transfer papers. Donation papers. Papers that moved $47 million out of my reach forever. I found Eleanor at the house we'd shared for 12 years. She was packing, not frantically, but methodically, folding clothes into suitcases with the same careful precision she'd shown signing away my inheritance. Where is it? My voice echoed in the bedroom. Where's the money? She didn't look up. Gone. You can't just give away $47 million. It's illegal. It's theft. Actually, she folded a sweater, one I'd mocked her for buying at Target. It's completely legal. I checked with 3 attorneys. Your fathers will require my signature on all transactions over $100,000. It didn't specify what transactions I could sign, only that I had to co-sign yours. So I forged nothing. Every transfer has my legitimate signature and yours. I never signed any transfers. You signed 73 documents in 4 months, Marcus. You never read a single one. She finally met my eyes. You'd come home, shove papers at me, demand I sign for your penthouse or your mistress's jewelry. And I'd say, while you're here, could you sign these too? Investment papers. You never asked what they were. You just wanted me compliant. My mind reeled back. Blurry memories of Eleanor handing me documents while I was on my phone. Just sign these too, Marcus. Paperwork for the estate. Had I really been that careless? You tricked me. I was transparent. You were distracted. She closed the suitcase. There's a difference. The attorneys will what? Confirm that both signatures are genuine? They already have. I kept meticulous records. Every document you signed, every witness statement, every notarization. She pulled out a folder, handed it to me. It's all here. You're welcome to challenge it. But Marcus? You'll lose. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Page after page of documents. My signature on transfers to the Eleanor Harrison Foundation for Women's Financial Education, the Whitmore Capital Scholarship Fund for first-generation college students, the Downtown Women's Shelter Building Fund. You gave it to charity. I gave it where your father would have wanted it. He built Whitmore Capital to create opportunity. You just wanted to fund hedonism. She picked up her keys. The house is yours, paid off, no mortgage. I left $4.2 million in the accounts. That's generous considering you spent $8 million on your mistress in 4 months. You can't leave. We're married. Divorce papers were filed this morning. You'll be served tomorrow. She moved toward the door. I'm not asking for alimony. Not taking anything but what I came with. Eleanor, wait. I grabbed her arm. She looked at my hand, then at my face. I dropped it. Why? If you knew about Sienna, if you hated me, why not just divorce me 4 months ago? Because I made a promise. Her voice softened. Your father called me the week before he died. Asked me to come to the hospital alone. He knew he didn't have long. I staggered back. What? He said, Marcus is my son, and I love him. But he's weak. Money will corrupt him. I need you to protect the legacy until he grows up, or until he proves he never will. She smiled sadly. The will wasn't about protecting the marriage, Marcus. It was about protecting the money from you. He trusted me to do what he couldn't. Let you make your choices, then ensure the consequences matched. He knew? He knew I'd. He knew you were capable of cruelty. He hoped you'd prove him wrong. The 5-year clause was a test. If you'd spent 5 years treating the money in our marriage with respect, it would all have been yours. No restrictions. But I failed. Spectacularly. She opened the door. Goodbye, Marcus. I hope someday you find what you're actually looking for. Because it was never the money. Where will you go? I'm going back to school. Finishing my finance degree. The one I dropped out of when we got married because you said wives didn't need careers. She paused. Your father's attorney offered me a position on the foundation boards, overseeing the distribution of the money. Making sure it actually changes lives. You planned this from the beginning. No. I hoped until the end you'd be who I thought you were. Her eyes glistened. Every signature was a choice, Marcus. You chose Sienna, the cars, the life you deserve. I chose to honor a dying man's wish to save his legacy from his son's worst impulses. She left. The door clicked shut with a finality that echoed through the empty house. Sienna left 20 minutes after she learned about the money. By a text. She didn't even fake regret. The Bentley was repossessed the following week. I'd been leasing it, not owning it. The penthouse lease expired. The jewelry, the clothes, all Sienna's. She disappeared with them. I called attorneys. They confirmed what Eleanor had said. Every document was legitimate. Every transfer legal. I could challenge, but it would cost millions I didn't have, and likely fail. The $4.2 million Eleanor left felt like an insult. Then I started paying bills. The Bentley lease I'd defaulted on. The penthouse damage deposit. Sienna's credit cards I'd foolishly put in my name. The money evaporated in weeks. 6 months later, I was working at Whitmore Capital again. Not as heir. As an employee. Senior analyst. The board, now overseen by the foundation Eleanor ran, had offered me a job. Your father would want you to have the opportunity to earn your way. Eleanor's words, filtered through attorneys. I saw her once, at a foundation gala. She wore a dress that actually fit her. Elegant. Expensive. Earned with money she'd earned. Her hair was styled. She was laughing with a group of scholarship recipients, young women who glowed as she spoke about financial literacy and independence. She looked happy. Free. I was there as an employee, not a donor. Watching from the edges while the fortune my father built changed lives in ways I'd never imagined. Mr. Whitmore? One of the scholarship students approached. Your father's work meant everything to my family. This scholarship let me go to college. I graduate next month. That's wonderful. Mrs. Whitmore said you're learning the business. Following in your father's footsteps. She smiled. It must be nice, continuing his legacy. I looked across the room at Eleanor, no longer my wife, but the keeper of my father's dream. She caught my eye, nodded once, then turned back to her conversation. Yes, I said quietly. I'm trying to learn what that means. The letter sits in my desk drawer. I read it sometimes, when I need to remember. By the time you read this, the money will be gone. It was never about the money. My father had tried to teach me that his whole life. Built his fortune not for luxury, but for legacy, for impact, for meaning. I'd learned the wrong lesson. Saw the money as the goal, not the tool. Eleanor learned what I couldn't. She'd grown up modest, stayed modest, understood that wealth was responsibility, not entitlement. I'd lost $47 million, a Bentley, a mistress who never cared, and a marriage to a woman who deserved better. But I'd kept the lesson. Expensive, brutal, earned through humiliation and loss. Some men inherit money. Others inherit wisdom. I got neither. But I'm learning, slowly, painfully, what my father tried to give me all along. The chance to be worth something more than my bank account. Eleanor gave me that too, in her way. By taking everything, she left me with the only thing that mattered. The opportunity to finally grow up.